Get the people in the room first. Good morning, everybody. Happy July 4th, Independence Day. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, all around always of gray, for purple mountains, majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed His grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. Oh, beautiful, oh, Peachtree Street that sees beyond the years, thine alabaster cities gleam, undimmed by human tear. America, America, God shed her grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea.
Good morning. Welcome. Please join me in a breath. We breathe together. We breathe together to gather ourselves in, to gather ourselves into this moment, bringing our thoughts from where we sometimes leave them in the past, mulling over that which has already happened into this moment, letting all of that mulling fall away. We breathe together to gather our thoughts in from where we sometimes send them in the future, imagining outcomes we long for or those which we would most like to avoid, wanting to control that which is outside of our control, and in ways wasting energy by sending our thoughts there. And so we draw those thoughts back into this moment as well. Our breath is a tool that does that work for us. It brings us back into our body. Being attentive to our surround does that work for us, bringing us back into the space we inhabit instead of that mind space where we spend so much time. And so we gather ourselves in so that we can be available to the generosity of this moment, generosity of this moment alone. And doing so, we become more able to be about the work that we are here to do together, the work of building church, as we say it. Each Sunday, I kindle some sort of flame that is a visual reminder that within us, there is something eternal and ineffable, something we call the light. Sometimes the goings-on of life can make that light feel as if it is dimmed. And so we gather together, sometimes physically, sometimes virtually. We gather together so that we can rekindle that light. And as I remind you, nearly every week, sometimes that light is rekindled because we receive something from having gathered, and sometimes it's because we have shared something. And most of the time, it's a combination of the two. And so I'm glad you're here today to receive and to share and to exist together in this kind of special or separate space that we create with our attention and with our intention. I'm glad you're here. Parker Palmer writes, "Community cannot take root in a divided life. Community cannot take root in a divided life. Long before community assumes external shape and form, it must be present as a seed in the undivided self. Only as we are in communion with ourselves can we find community with others. We are sort of as a nation, as a world right now, in an awkward liminal space in much of our lives. And how we begin and continue to gather in person after a time of community being virtual is very much part of that awkwardness and the liminality, the in-betweenness. This is the reality for so much of our lives, not just our congregational life, and it is also very true for us as a spiritual community. It would be easy for us, at least those of us who've not been to the building for over a year, have not been involved directly in the work of the pantry, the work that has been going on within the building. It would be easy for those of us who haven't seen what's been happening there to think that things have just been in stasis and that we will simply walk back into a building where the chairs have been sat waiting for us. The chairs are not sat waiting. In fact, the chairs are all leaned up against a wall or hanging on a rack. And the tables that we gather around in fellowship are not sitting in the fellowship area with chairs around them. They are instead lined up in the celebration room with toiletries on them and hygiene items and clothing and more. There are racks in the fellowship area instead of the usual furniture, and they shift from being full to overflowing with non-perishable foods to being virtually empty and ready to be filled again with the next round of donations. The kitchen has been in near constant use. The entryway and the story pit are full of boxes, and there's a head-high stack of pallets in the area where the bookshelves live. The external shape and form of our community has been during this time what it has always been: the active engagement of community growing from our spiritual truths. The external shape and form of our community, seeded by you and all those who have come before you, carried on by people you will likely never even meet, has morphed into something more in that building while most of us have been away. That will shift. That will shift. They have, it seems, they being the pantry leadership, they have, it seems, found a new and even better space to live into starting next month. We will be gathering in the building in small groups to do the work of touching up paint, fixing things up a bit, carpet cleaning, you can imagine. And when I say we, I hope that I include you, and we're going to be very clear about these work groups that you don't have to do any work. If you come, you can just be there and be present and say hi to people you haven't seen for a while in a space you haven't inhabited for a while. What I've been hoping to do these last couple of months is to offer an invitation to be prepared for that. I want us to be prepared to walk into potential as we begin to gather in person once again. And even as we gather in person, it will be hybrid. There will be an online offering because why would there not be? I want us to be prepared for this new beginning, not a return to what we imagine has been sat there waiting for us. Things have been more active than ever in the building, and that's you, even if it hasn't been you in any physical way. The church within has been TCWing all these months on your behalf because of your generosity and in service to the foundation of who we are as people and as a people of passion on purpose. Amen. This morning, we are going to look at community through the work of Bell Hooks, specifically a chapter from her book, All About Love, A New Vision. The chapter entitled Community, Loving Communion. I don't think I could love that title anymore. As we move together in that direction, and as we move together in the direction of in-person gathering, please hear the words from Parker Palmer I just shared, the lines that Hooks uses to open this particular chapter of the book, and consider what it might look like to be just such a seed as Palmer mentions here. Community cannot take root in a divided life. Community cannot take root in a divided life. Long before community assumes external shape and form, it must be present as a seed in the undivided self. Only as we are in communion with ourselves can we find community with others. Let us do a bit of that community finding right now, using the comments in Facebook and the chat in Zoom to greet each other, to say hello to those who have gathered, to share a bit of ourselves. And what I would invite you to, and this one's a little complicated, but I think you're here for it and you don't have to answer immediately. That chat's open and the comments are open the whole time. I would love for you to share some moment when you couldn't help but release a satisfied sigh over the course of the last week. For me, I'll share first. For me, it was a moment in the back seat of the car with the dog as Frank drove while we were in Bloomington, our first travel experience with the dog, who does not thrive on car time. I'm just going to share that with you. So we're driving through Monroe Lake, that the state forest around, and we went over the causeway. I don't know if you've ever driven over that causeway, but it gives you a very long view over the water, and then you can see the forest. And that sigh came unbidden, in large part because we live in the city and I don't get to see that far very often. There's something healing in that, I believe, something gathering and being able to see such a distance and such beauty. And so that was one of those satisfied sigh moments for me over the course of the last week. I hope you've had some, whether you share them in text or not, in the chat or the comments. I hope you've had that moment. And if you haven't, I hope you start looking for it. But let's greet each other. And as you do so, I'm going to remind you that in Zoom, there's that drop down and you can private message people. And you can see everybody who's in Zoom with you. And because we are in this now hybrid time where we those of us especially who are vaccinated can meet and we can be outside, it's super safe to be outside or in large space, and we can just see each other. And it's just so nice to see people, like, from the armpits down, we all still exist. Who knew? And in 3 dimensions, like, we can move in space together, and it's like we're not just this flat picture. So I hope you are getting about that exciting time of seeing those folks in that list saying, you know what, I haven't seen you and I would love to get together. Someone has asked me in a private message to share where the pantry might be going, and because it's only hopeful, I'm not going to share it yet. I don't want to jinx it. I'm going to let them announce that themselves, but fingers crossed, and my toes are too. You could see it if we were in person. It will move easily through, and all will be well and timely and easily done. Your prayers are much appreciated in that regard. So take a few moments. If you're on Facebook, leave comments, because then when people watch belatedly, they can still connect with you in that way. As you greet each other, I'm going to give a few points of announcement. So first, I'll say that I'm still leaning us into this culture of looking for what's going on. And I hope you'll continue to do that. I hope you will continue to look at Facebook. If you are a Facebook user, at the Church Within on Facebook at the page, and you can just click on the events tab there. I've also just put that link in the chat. I also put the link for the website for the church where you can sign up for the weekly email. All of that, and for all of what we're doing, is at the bottom of that email with links that you might need. I will mention a specific event this week that is coming up this month, which is the Garfield Park full congregation. I just keep calling it that in hopes that the full congregation will come together from 1:30 to 3:30 on the 18th of July, Sunday afternoon. We're going to be at the South Grove Pavilion. So if you look at the email, or you look at that Facebook event, both of those have a link that goes to a little pin I created on Google Maps. I felt like such a wizard in that moment. That'll bring you right to the pavilion. It's where we've gathered before if you've gone to picnics at the park in the past. And a couple folks asked me why we weren't just meeting at church, and it's because we can't meet inside, because I'm not kidding. There's pantry everywhere. So there just is no space for us to gather. And the parking lot's just hot. So I don't want us to sit on a blacktop parking lot in the middle of the afternoon. There are picnic tables under the pavilion. Feel free to bring some camp chairs. My intention is to tap someone to get some just like fruit trays and vegetable trays for us to have finger food. Angela is going to bring the big drink containers. And I also keep feeling a bit of wiggliness around that because I haven't been in a big group of people eating, and what that looks like and feels like. So know that you can wear a mask. Vaccinated still can wear a mask if that's your comfort zone. If you're unvaccinated, I hope you will wear a mask because that's the safest for you and for those around you. You can eat or not eat. We are working on this kind of like system of colors on name tags so that you can identify without having to have the conversation over and over again of, you know what, I'm not comfortable in personal space, let's keep distance, or I'm hugging if you're hugging, because vaccinated folks are quite safe. The science is pointing toward have a quick hug outside. I also was never willing to gather us before that was the case because I know how we are. We're huggers. And then one that's just like, yeah, like, you know, I'm in the in-between so that we don't have to have that conversation over and over again because it's an exhausting conversation, isn't it? It's one that I'm glad we're getting used to because it's a really good kind of just practice for us to set boundaries and consent to other people's boundaries. And in this situation, we're going to do it in a visual way. So I hope you will make time to be there for our big kind of all church gathering. Between now and then and after that, there are going to be some other things happening. You can see those in both of those places I linked. Both of those links exist also in the Facebook video description thing too. So we're having we're attending some outdoor concerts at the parks that are free. We're having some just sit around in a circle, bring your own camp chair at a couple places around town. That'll just be for chatting. Make intention to ease your way back into what it means to be in-person community. Some of you may just be so champing at the bit, there's no need for easing. Some of the rest of us are like, you know what, I want to take this in steps. So I'm being very intentional. We are being very intentional about how that might look. And then in August, get ready because we're going to get the building ready and you're going to be there for it. The last thing I'm going to tell you is that very unimportantly, my birthday is this month, which I don't, you know, it's not a very big deal. However, I do a fundraiser every year, and especially because we're not doing in-person fundraisers, it has become a kind of important fundraiser. So last year, I think I set the goal at $2,000 and it collected $6,000. So I did a little poll in the Facebook group that some of you voted on and said, what should we do this year? Should I set it at 2,000? Should I be slightly audacious? It's part of the theme, and set it at 6,000 because that's what we did, or should we just jump to 10? So if you got real nervous, it's okay. The largest number of votes was for 6, so that we could hit last year's. I'm secretly hoping we might meet 10 just because it would just be lovely financially for us organizationally. So I'm going to share the link to that. It's also all over Facebook right now. If you can make a donation, fantastic. If you are not up for donating right now, if you could just share it, that would be fantastic. Share why you come here. Share what it is we do congregationally that nourishes you, that might urge you to share that with others. I've been, as some of you know, I've been at this church for 24 or 25 years ago was the first time I walked in. I had that crazy long hair, but this same giant forehead, it wasn't great. I'll admit it, I apologize. But I've been here this long because I love this place and I love who we are as a people in the community. And so doing that bit with my birthday, hopefully to undergird us financially so we can continue to be that in the world. There's no stress. There's not like some crisis, I'm hiding from you financially, we're fine. But we're fine because we consistently are generous. And so that invitation lives right there. Let's take a breath. To allow ourselves to sink into this moment once again, with all of that kind of going on in the back of our mind now, the front of our mind settles into now. We move into a time of meditation and prayer, first with music from Mark Proctor, and then the words of John Fader.
We are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother, with love that will last through sorrow and pain. The love that will never die with strain. Life can be so lonely when nobody cares. Life can be so empty when nobody shares. If we give ourselves for time and again, the happiness of God will live within. We are made for service, to care for each other. We are made to love each sister and brother, a love that will last through sorrow and pain, a love that will never die with strain, love that will never die with strain.
Good morning, everyone. Please join me in a breath. At the church within, we meditate to further quiet our minds and become grounded, and to connect to Source and to each other, and to open up to receive teaching, and to become aware of our blocks to our awareness of love's presence in and around us. To recognize that we are love and can be love in any circumstance, any situation. And so I invite you to gather your attention around your breath. And if it's comfortable for you, close your eyes or fix your gaze on something before you, slightly low so that your head is slightly tilted down. And become aware of that breathing, and just notice its rhythm and its depth. And then I'm going to invite you to scan through your body and just notice any place that you might be holding some tension. someplace. For me, it's often my jaw and or my shoulders, just something that you can loosen, that you can let go. And then return your attention to your breath. And if at any time you find that your mind becomes occupied, that your attention moves from your breath or from where you intend your attention to be, just notice that's what's happened. That's the activity of the human brain. Thinking, just notice. I seem to be thinking about this. And just gently, without scolding, just bring your attention back to your breath. And I invite you to bring your awareness to a particular part of your breath. And that is the space between inhale and exhale. However long or brief that instant might be, just notice that space between inhale and exhale. And now I invite you to bring into your attention the space between you and the things around you. The furniture, any walls in front of you, behind you, any objects above you or below you, the thing that you're sitting on. Notice not the objects themselves, but the space between you. And breathe. And of course, I want you to be aware of your space and your connection to the people that might be in the room with you or in the building with you. But then also reach out with your awareness to the people on this screen, on this call. wherever they are in space in relation to you, east, south, north, west, all of them, all directions from you. And just notice the space. And breathe. And of course, I've already used the word connection. We are all connected through this space. It's not empty at all. Love flows there. And we breathe. We are all related. And so it is. Amen. The Church Within was founded on prayer, and we have many people ready to pray with you or for you throughout the week. You can make your requests known to the prayer team by the link that appears in the chat box during this service, or by visiting our webpage anytime at thechurchwithin.org. Blessed be.
A number of years ago, in the time before I was pastor, I was in a workshop, and the teacher told us about imaginal cells. Some of you may know about these cells. Based on what I've been reading around them, they maybe are more correctly called imaginal discs, but the words seem to be used interchangeably. They're what makes a butterfly become a butterfly after it's done being a caterpillar. Same goes for a moth. When the teacher talked about this, turning it all into a metaphor, much as I'm about to do this morning, I thought they were making it up, or I thought it was some kind of pseudoscience that had been somehow co-opted into the metaphorical living of spiritual folks of our ilk. It just seemed too fanciful. Imaginal cells. Imaginal cells. What a bunch of hooey. Except it isn't fanciful, of course, it's quite real. In an article from Scientific America's online magazine, we read, within its protective casing, the caterpillar radically transforms its body, eventually emerging as a butterfly or moth. But what does that radical transformation entail? The article goes on. How does a caterpillar rearrange itself into a butterfly? What happens inside a chrysalis or cocoon? First, the caterpillar digests itself, releasing enzymes to dissolve all of its tissues. If you were to cut open a cocoon or chrysalis at just the right time, caterpillar soup would ooze out. But the contents of the pupa are not entirely an amorphous mess. Certain highly organized groups of cells known as imaginal discs survive the digestive process. Before hatching, when a caterpillar is still developing inside its egg, it grows an imaginal disc for each of the adult body parts it will need as a mature butterfly or moth. discs for its eyes, for its wings, its legs, and so on. In some species, the article tells us these imaginal discs remain dormant throughout the caterpillar's life, meaning that the caterpillar is walking around with these adult butterfly or moth parts just beneath the surface, waiting for the right time, and then forming completely in the chrysalis or cocoon. Some caterpillars have those rudimentary tiny wings just there, hidden, waiting for the time that they will fly. You would never know by looking. Once a caterpillar has disintegrated all of its tissues except the imaginal discs, those discs use the protein-rich soup all around them to fuel the rapid cell division required to form all the features of the adult butterfly or moth. The imaginal disc for a fruit fly's wings might begin with only 50 cells and increase to more than 50,000 cells by the end of metamorphosis. Depending on the species, certain caterpillar muscles and sections of the nervous system are largely preserved in the adult butterfly. One study even suggests that moths remember that they learned what they learned in later stages of their lives as caterpillars. So that's all something. That's all something. I've spent so much time with this in preparation for this morning that, like, even as I'm reading it, I'm just so excited about it. I'm so excited for what we can apply to living on different levels within this life process. As we move toward that in a kind of explicit way, I want you to hear again the words from Parker Palmer that I shared this morning. Community cannot take root in a divided life. Long before community assumes external shape and form, it must be present as a seed in the undivided self. Only as we are in communion with ourselves can we find community with others. You might already be hearing a level or two or three of where I hope we can travel within all of this consideration of metamorphosis. I want us to be the individuals who are, as Palmer puts it, undivided self. I want us to be that undivided self in which these seeds are already present, these imaginal cells, if you will. And I want us to be that within whatever community we find ourselves. I want for us as a people, the congregation of the church within in this particular instance, to be the imaginal cells within the larger community. That means that within the larger soup of our neighborhood, our city, our state, our country, and the world, we are an undivided self that allows the post-metamorphosis being to emerge. I like very much that these discs are called imaginal because the imagination is what it takes. The poetic or prophetic imagination, as I mention often, is one that can envision a world without requiring the envisioning of a path from this world to that. A caterpillar doesn't likely imagine at all, but if it did, how on earth would it imagine a world or a life where it flies? And yet, with those little organized clusters of cells, within that little family, that little community of cells, is all that is needed for that reality to become. And so it is your imagination that creates that which can be, and it is your imagination within community that dictates the shape and form of that community. M. Scott Peck begins his book, The Different Drum, Community Making and Peace, Hooks tells us, with the profound declaration, in and through community lies the salvation of the world. In and through community lies the salvation of the world. That's what I mean. That's what I mean on every level, individual, small groups, larger communities, and on up. Here lies the salvation of the world. Hook shares from just after this, Peck defines community as the coming together of a group of individuals who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other and make each other's conditions our own. I want you to hear those again. Community is the coming together of a group of individuals who have learned how to communicate honestly with each other, whose relationships go deeper than their masks of composure, and who have developed some significant commitment to rejoice together, mourn together, and to delight in each other and make each other's conditions our own. As we move through this awkward in-between time, I hope we are considering just what it is we want to imagine into being. I'm doing this on a personal level, and I've been inviting you to join me in that. Many around us are doing this at organizational levels, deciding what next steps will look like in our work life, in how we engage as volunteers, in how we gather as community, and what it means to move forward as organizers. And of course, this is happening also at more systemic levels as we are emerging from a time when things had to be different into a time when we can choose for things to be different. We've strengthened that muscle because we had to, and we can use that muscle because we choose to. We have learned very clearly that things don't always have to be the way things have always been. And there is transformation available to us in every choice we make. How I do this no longer has to be how I did this before. How I think about this now, the same. It doesn't have to be how I've thought about it before. For some, that is exciting. For some, that is terrifying. For many of us, it's going unnoticed. Let us notice together. Let us notice together where choices await our making them. To move from just noticing what could be through being terrified by what it might take for it to become and into excitement will require a lot of love. And that love will be most empowered by compassion and forgiveness. Hooke writes, within a loving community, we sustain ties by being compassionate and forgiving. I would add to that being a loving being, we must extend that same sustenance of compassion and forgiveness to ourselves. Hooks goes on, Eric Butterworth's Life is for Loving includes a chapter on love and forgiveness. She tells us, insightfully he writes, we cannot endure without love, and there is no other way to return. There is no other way to the return of healing, comforting, harmonizing love than through total and complete forgiveness. Hear those adjectives he used. Healing, comforting, harmonizing love. Healing love. Comforting love. Harmonizing love. There's no way to the return of that love than through total and complete forgiveness. Butterworth adds, if we want freedom and peace and the experience of love and being loved, we must let go and forgive. Forgiveness is an act of generosity. What do we need to forgive? A lot, a lot of things. We might need to forgive others in this particular moment for not being in touch with us as we would have liked, in ways that would have assured us that they cared over this time of pandemic. We might need to forgive ourselves for not being in touch with others as much as we feel we should have been. I'll leave the list at those two because those can seem huge and insurmountable. And those two are on my mind because of repeated conversations. Sometimes conversations where someone is just saying, I can't believe they didn't reach out. Sometimes where they're saying, I can't believe I haven't reached out. Sometimes it's me thinking both of those things. At one point during the pandemic, I don't remember who I was talking about or who I was talking to or what we were talking about. So it was obviously a very important moment. What I remember is that I must have been grumbling a little bit about something, and the person said to me, well, Darren, you just have to remember that people are going through a hard time. And I said, I do remember that because I'm a person and I'm going through a hard time. So I want us to remember that as we approach this forgiveness work, like we are a people who has gone through a hard time. Let's let ourselves and each other off the hook a bit. Hooks goes on, while forgiveness is essential to spiritual growth, it does not make everything immediately wonderful or fine. How dare she? Does not make everything immediately wonderful or fine. Often, New Age writing on the subject of love makes it seem as though everything will always be wonderful if we are just loving. Man, what a trap we fall into. I've been so loving, how could this have happened? Realistically, Hooks goes on, being part of a loving community does not mean we will not face conflicts, betrayals, negative outcomes, bad things happening to good people. Love allows us to confront these negative realities in a manner that is life-affirming and life-enhancing. Life-affirming, life-enhancing. Let's take a breath. In what may feel like an aside, I want to share with you what my friend Rich McCarty is talking about this morning to his congregation, Community United Church in Erie, Pennsylvania. He shared on Facebook that this Sunday will conclude the first summer sermon series on eschatology. That's the kind of sentence you get when a college professor in a seminary is also your pastor. So I will expect some thank you cards. The first summer sermon series on eschatology. This week, we'll take seriously that almost everything that is said about the end of the world, which he has put in quotes, is actually meant to transform how we live life in the here and now. Some people take that to mean that we should have an aggressive agenda of converting others to narrow visions of who's saved, also in quotes, and who isn't. But when we look more closely, New Testament visions of the end actually compel us to examine what we value now, how we care for others, how we steward creation, and how we work for justice. As we rise to our full height after this time of pandemic, as we reemerge into being physically together, I suspect we would all do good and well to get curious about these same questions. I suspect we'd all do good and well to exercise a bit of audacity in regards to how we answer these questions with our living. And I suspect we would do good and well to employ some generosity at every step of that process. And if we are to succeed, we would do good and well to root all of that in our heart, enacting courage along the way. So it's not an aside. It's not an aside to share what my friend is preaching this morning, because it's exactly what we've been about for a bunch of Sundays, even without electionary, even without the encapsulation of tradition that he lives within for all of us. Who are we? Who are we, and how will we live that out in the world we are creating together? Because, my God, so much has fallen apart since those first rumors of this virus. So much has fallen apart or fallen open. We get to choose. So much has dissolved around us. Whether we have felt wrapped in the safety of a cocoon or not, there has also been that which has opened. There has also been that which has held together. that which has held together, even as we were not certain whether or not we would each be amongst the survivors, even as we wonder still. We are the imaginal discs of what has been in metamorphosis, and we have within us those same imaginal discs. We are re-emerging as people, and that allows us to arise anew as a people. I wonder if you feel that. I wonder if you feel that, because I've struggled quite a bit with finding the words that I feel can adequately convey to you the potential energy of this metaphorical understanding that is also a biological reality that is quite literally happening around us in the world even now, as caterpillars I don't particularly care for are squirming around outside eating my broccoli and kale. This continuous creation of which you are inextricably a part will not be complete without you. And its unfolding will be shaped by what you bring to the fore of your living. It would be an accident to hear in those words that those who we have lost are not also inextricably a part of this world. I heard in a podcast this week that when someone dies in Senegal, the Senegalese people say, and especially when it's an elder, when an elder dies, the Senegalese people say, a library has been burned. It's been on my mind a lot because we've lost so many elders. We've lost so many elders. And what I want us to know is that even though that library has burned, we have within us the books that they offered us that now are in our libraries. And so they continue through that thread to be inextricably a part of what is unfolding. And so, informed by all of that, what do we value? What do you value now? How do you care for others? How do you steward creation? How do you work for justice? Not how will. This isn't in the future. This is about right now. What do you value right now? What do we value as people? How do you care for others right now? How do we, as a people, care for others? How are we stewarding creation right now? And how are we working for justice right now? All of this is informed by others who were living their best imaginal selves, and it spreads to us. The act of transformation changed us each. The act of transformation changed you from potential you to you in action. Potential you to you in action, you living your life. And as that happens, you become that which will quicken the same in others. That fruit fly's wings started out as 50 imaginal cells that became 50,000 by the end of the process. One imaginal cell teaching the cell yet to be formed next to it how to be a wing. How to be a wing so that flight could happen. One teaching the one next to it how to be a wing until enough have formed that flight formed that wing until flight becomes possible. I honestly don't know what shape and form we will take as a people in the next stages of our community evolution. I don't know. That depends on you. It depends on us. It depends on what we decide to make this community and what those who have yet to even be here with us decide to make this community. I know that this loving communion we create together isn't just for us. It's for each other. We build this together for each other. It is for the world around us. Community, loving communion is calling us right now. Community, loving communion is calling you right now. I pray you say yes to it. I pray you hear the call, and I pray you say yes to it. I look forward with great excitement. And I pray that excitement grows in you as well. As we find each other anew, we find that which we point toward with that word God anew. As we find each other anew, we find that which we point toward with the word God anew. We are transformed both by seeking and finding, the looking and seeing. This is the call of community, and I'm so glad you're here. So it is. Amen.
All my life's a circle, the rise and the down. The moon rolls through the night time till the daybreak comes around. All my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. The season's spinning round again, the years keep rolling by. Seems like I've been there before, can't remember when. But I've got this funny feeling that we'll all be together again. And those straight lines make up my life. All my roads I've been, they look like I'm so complicated. All my life's a circle, sunrise and sundown. The blue rolls through the night time till the daybreak comes around. It's all my life's a circle, I can't tell you why. See the spinning around again, years keep rolling by. I found you 1,000 times. Yes, you know the same. The days together, just like the children's days. As I see you again, the conference through my mind. Love is like the slow time. All my life is the rise and down. Break comes around. That's all my life's a circle. I can't tell you why. The season's spinning round again. Years keep rolling by. The season's spinning round again. Years keep rolling by.
In just a moment, Sharon will put up the words for the offering prayer. I hope you will say those right out loud or sign them right into the space around you. There is a link for donations if you would like to give there. The Facebook fundraiser event is there. Then we will sing together as loud as you can, and then we'll do the offering prayer together again, right out loud, I hope. Let us pray. Creator God, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen.
All people are holy, and it has one God. All people are holding, only love is real. No matter who you are, no matter where you've been, gather together and let the Spirit in. All people are holy, many times one God. All bodies are holy, only love is real, only love is real.
May the peace of God go before us into this glorious week, and may the peace remain wherever we have walked. Peace above us and below us. Peace to the right and to the left. Peace within and without. Peace in the face of everyone we meet. Peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen. In just a couple of minutes, I will open up the breakout rooms on Zoom. As I get ready to do that, use the chat if you're going to stay or if you're not, just to get the rest of those greetings in, to reach out to folks you want to get together with this week. And while you do that, I'm going to end the Facebook live stream. Thank you so much for everyone who joined this morning on Facebook and who will join moving forward by watching that video later. Blessings on you in this very breath.